Hey everyone, this is episode 100. Episode 100 of Enemy of the State's Dank Pod Stash. Stay tuned after these ads real quick and listen to what I got to say. It's some cool stuff, some important stuff. I'll get into it then. But before we get into that, let me thank from the bottom of my heart Dank Pod Stash super supporters Maxwell, Dave, and Dennis. You guys are fucking awesome. Also, as you all know, the Dank Pod Stash is officially sponsored by Project Sparta. Now's the time to get healthy and in shape. Greg Papanikolas is going to get you there with personalized meal plans, training, group support, and tons of amazing fitness and motivational resources and knowledge, including the Project Sparta Facebook group. You can go to projectspartacoaching.com and learn more about Greg's work and get started on your path to health. In this crazy world we're living in, our health is more important than ever. Get up, start learning, communicating, and training. One of the most important and often neglected things in life is your physical health. Get to projectspartacoaching.com now and get after it. Also, shout out to Voluntary Apothecary. Giveaway time! They have a giveaway for you, and it's some cool shit. They have a Keep Key hardware wallet, crypto wallet. You're going to win a Keep Key hardware crypto wallet and even a little bit of crypto loaded up already for you. And all you have to do is share this episode on pretty much any social media platform, anything that has a hashtag where you can find the Dank Pod Stash with the hashtag Go Beyond the Ballot. That's hashtag Go Beyond the Ballot. Share this episode at the Dank Pod Stash, hashtag Go Beyond the Ballot, and we'll pick a winner. So, get on that, and also check out Voluntary Apothecary's products. Voluntary Apothecary is here to fulfill all of your beard care needs. They carry beard oil, mustache wax, beard butter, and more. I only use their beard care products, and I love them. You can check out their amazing products at voluntariapothecary.com. And one more bonus from these generous motherfuckers. Listeners of the show can take 10% off your order with code DANK at checkout. Get after it, guys. All right. The Dank Pod Stash is teamed up with Road to Anarchy for a monthly newsletter and more. Road to Anarchy is an online magazine connecting groups of voluntary individuals who are looking to increase their freedom from the state, becoming more self-reliant and developing a better focus on becoming a productive individual is the only mission. The only division is against the state. No matter your flavor of anarchy, finding your road to anarchy is the first step to progress. The time is now to put our individual differences aside, join up, and create change. You can go to roadtoanarchy.com to sign up for the monthly zine or to patreon.com/thedankpodstash and get signed up with any tier of support. Check out the Road to Anarchy Facebook page and groups to connect with other individuals on the road to anarchy. Where's your road taking you?
Enemy of the state.
An enemy of the state.
Enemy of the state.
Dank Pod Stash.
You're listening to Enemy of the State's Dank Pod Stash. Check out thedankpodstash.com to find every episode of the Dank Pod Stash, links to support the show via our BitBacker and Patreon, Dank Pod Stash merchandise, and much more. If you'd like to advertise on the Dank Pod Stash, email us at dankpodstash@gmail.com. What is up, fellow enemies of the state? We are at episode 100 of Enemy of the State's Dank Pod Stash, and it has been really, really awesome to go back through and put this episode together. In this episode, it's a whole compilation of almost everyone who's been on the show, a little clip from each Patreon After Hours in which I asked, what would you tell the whole world if you had the attention of every person out here in the world on you for a few minutes? And just absolutely inspiring, beautiful, wonderful answers is all there is. Everybody that's been on the show from the beginning to now is just fucking awesome. Just wonderful people, great insights, I've learned so much from all of you, and I really, really appreciate it. I appreciate everyone who supported the show all the way up through episode 100 via Patreon, liking, subscribing, sharing, all that stuff on all the different social media. I couldn't do it without any of you, and I really love doing this show, so thank you very much. It's just been really awesome. This is really special to me to reach episode 100, and it's going to be the last episode of Enemy of the State's Dank Podstash. I'll continue with the show, but it's going to be under a new name and a bit of a new focus. With the Dank Podstash, I really tried to, talk to everyday anarchists on the ground. People like me, people like you, everybody who's listening. Just really get into the community and see what we all have to say, what we can learn from each other. And it's just been absolutely awesome. And I'm going to continue doing that every once in a while, but I'd really like to reach out of the anarchist sphere and start trying to reach people who aren't here, who aren't anarchists, who aren't necessarily ready for the full amount of freedom that we're ready for. I want to start trying to reach out to them and bring what we know to them and what the world could be to them. So stay tuned. The new show is, I'm going to have a new promo out for that, hopefully this coming Wednesday, and it's going to be called Beyond the Ballot. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm going to try to reach out to even more people who are doing things every day in their lives, in their community, and as big a scale as we can get to, and talk to them about what we can do outside of the state to bring about more freedom for everybody. So keep an eye out for that. I really appreciate everybody getting us to this point and your continued support as we move into Beyond the Ballot. We're going to do great things, all of us together. I'm really excited for it. So like I said, this show is talking about, it's actually clips of everybody saying what they would tell the whole world if they had the opportunity. And I think I'll kick it off real quick after I kind of explain a little bit about that. So not every person in this episode did a Patreon after hours when they had their time on the show. There's a few people who were before we did Patreon after hours, and some other people who we didn't get to record that when they were on the show. So a lot of them have sent in clips that I'm going to be including at the beginning, so you'll notice a little bit of a different format. It's just still a bunch of really awesome stuff. I'll be calling out their name and episode number before each clip for those of you just listening, and you can also watch this on YouTube, of course, and see everybody, see the evolution of the YouTube thumbnails from the beginning to the end, and the quote unquote studio that I'm in, and just the evolution of the show from where it started to now. It's pretty fucking cool. So I'm looking forward for you guys to see that. And I had a bad habit of asking my guests on the spot this question, and I eventually got a little better at it, and would let them know before that I'd be asking the question. But it's despite being put on the spot, man, just blown away with the answers. The people on the spot had great answers. People that had time to think about it had wonderful answers too. It's just all awesome. So I just kind of wanted to put myself in those shoes and go off the cuff. And so if I had the opportunity to speak to the entire world for a couple minutes, what would I tell them? There's so much, and I think the main message that I'd like to impart is keep talking to each other. Keep talking to each other kindly and respectfully as much as possible. That's the only way we're going to move forward is changing the culture, and that starts on the individual level. And you can't reach anybody if you're being a dick. It's really important to reach people, and not only for the message of anarchy and whatnot, but just to reach people to come together as people. That's what's going to cause this domino effect that is going to create change. And I believe all of us can do that 100%. I've seen it. I've seen so many of the people I know do that. And there's no better feeling, and it spreads. It's one of the most important things. And after that, all we can do is protect ourselves and each other. Is you'll see in this episode, there's a great answer from Christopher Ledbetter, and he's been victimized by the state now. I don't think he's out of prison yet, but just state overreach, and I won't get into the details there, but that's something that we have to watch out for. Is they're coming after people, and we need to protect ourselves and each other, and we start with the connections, and then we move on to always being vigilant, because as the state realizes that it's not as effective anymore, as it's in its death throes, it's lashing out violently. We can see it now. Not that it's realizing that, but it's losing control in some aspects. It's fucking wild what's happening right now. We need to protect ourselves from anybody that wants to hurt us, hurt our loved ones. So that's pretty much what I would say, is make those connections kindly and respectfully. Grow the network. Grow your friends. Grow your fam. And love each other and protect each other. Yeah, there we go, guys. I really hope you enjoy this as much as I did. It was a little emotional putting it together, going through and seeing everybody and just how amazing everything was. So without further ado, the final episode of Enemy of the State's Dank Podstash, episode 100. What would you tell the world? Enjoy. Hody Johns, multiple episodes.
What is up, Enemy of the State, Dank Podstash listeners? It's Hody Johns here. I first wanted to give a message to Nick. Nick, congratulations on episode 100, man. I think my podcast before We're Libertarians, I think it lasted about 15 episodes. So you're doing a good job, buddy. Hitting that century mark is no easy thing, and it takes a lot of work, and there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, and you have no idea how appreciated it is, Nick, so thank you. To everybody else who's listening, if I had something to say to the world with everybody listening, I would just say, love yourself. Focus on that self-care, that you're worth it mentality. I work with a lot of people in the liberty movement, and it's very obvious when you're working with someone who is hurting and who is broken. And generally, they do more harm than good. And it's not that their hearts aren't in the right place. I like that they try. I think they're where they're supposed to be, but not at the right time when they're supposed to be there. Focus on self-repair. If you need to get off of social media, get off of social media. If you find something that is detrimental to your life, whether it's drugs or alcohol, some people, hey, those are bringing a lot of help to their life, so no knock against that. But, if that's a detriment to your life, cut it out of there. If you're not eating right, body doesn't look right, if your mind's not working right, get to a good place first. Because you will do so much more when you are a fixed, repaired, and fully healed person. That's the type of person who is able to heal other people. And let me explain why this is so important. Because when you are healed, you don't need to rely on a state. Right? It's good to preach anti-state. That's a good message. That's the philosophically sound and correct message. But it's not feasible to someone who doesn't believe in themselves. They believe that a system of a little bit of murder here and there and a little bit of theft here and there is better than anything I could do because I can't be responsible for my own freedom and safety. Because that's how you feel, that you're not good enough, that you're not worth it. You're in a state of disrepair, so you need something that seems to work badly, at least to make those types of decisions for you. And so once you heal yourself, then you focus on healing people around you. Don't start with the whole world. This was one of the mistakes that I made when I first started out. I wanted to heal everybody. Start with community. Start with your family and friends. Start with your coworkers. Start with the people that you trust the most. And bring healing to their lives. And start with that message of, hey man, I really love you and I really care about what you care about. Because that is everything to them. They don't care about this whole anti-state, government, anarchy, whatever movement you got going on, because that sounds crazy to them as well until they're healed like you. And so you spread that healing and love and compassion and show them that you care about the things that they care about as well. That even if it's not your problem, it becomes your problem because their problems are your problems. Because you care about them. Because you love them and you empathize with them. All right, this is really the strategy forward. We're not going to vote our way into freedom anytime soon. If you're listen to the program, I think you're aware of that. But we're not going to get there anytime soon at all until that culture changes into a culture from that of self-harm and anxiety and stress, mental illness, physical illness, until all of that dissipates and becomes a cycle and culture of healing and self-reliance and community. And that's all I want to say. Again, thank you so much, Nick. It's been an honor to listen to you these past few years and getting to know you as a person. You're a great guy. And if you're listening to the show, you're a great person too. And if you don't feel that way, man, get to a place where you feel that way, because it really is the case. You're worth it. You're great. Love yourself. I love you guys. Thanks so much for letting me be part of episode 100, guys. Have a good one.
Luis Fernando Mises, episode 18.
Hi guys, my name is Luis Fernando Mises and I'm really excited to be part of Nick Irwin's 100th episode. He sent me a message and he asked me if I could send a brief video of what would I say to the world if I had a few minutes of everybody's attention. And that's actually a pretty amazing thing to do. He's gathering a bunch of videos, a bunch of people to be able to do this, and I love his idea and I love his energy, and I really like the empowerment that he gives to people. So that's actually part of my mission. My mission is to empower others and to be present. So that's this song that I continuously sing, the empowerment of the self and the empowerment for others. When I talk about the self, that is a really profound conversation. Who am I? I'm not just me. I am also the people that I've touched. So I like to tell people to consider the following questions. Who am I? Who are the shareholders of my life? Who am I accountable to? Because our life, we live in a system. It's not just our life. So as we connect with other people, we are in that system of connection where we give and we receive. Life supports itself. And the way I view things is that I've been given so much by life, and my work is a way to show appreciation for that amazing opportunity. If we think about it, it's more likely that we can win the lottery 5 times versus being in this life. So I'm super grateful. That's what moves me. Gratefulness, the desire to be able to give back to people as much as I possibly can. And that's a really different paradigm than when we work and we want a paycheck. So the paycheck to me is like a side effect. It's not necessarily what I'm going after, although I absolutely enjoy. I'm not a dummy. I enjoy the perks of life, if you will. When we become maximizers, we switch the paradigm and we create a cycle of abundance. So starting by the empowerment of the self. And one of my mentors taught me 3 main verbs: be, do, have. And he said, when you start becoming, when you know who you are, which is the knowledge of the self, then you start acting, you start doing. And you're acting and doing fueled by who you are. When you really know yourself. And once you're doing, having is just a side effect of all the other 2 things. And really often we see people going first and foremost towards having, and you can get so much, but you're never full, you're never fully satisfied. So it's pretty important that we connect with the self first and foremost, and then we're able to act on that. To know the good is to do the good. Therefore, what I'm trying to say is that as we move into this, The healing arts is not just massage or yoga or therapy, but it goes to other physical locations. Suddenly, a shaman works everywhere. You know, the person behind the counter at your favorite diner, or behind Starbucks desk, or maybe the person you're talking to on AT&T, that person is more enlightened than your yoga teacher when you leave much better than when you walked into that first situation. So it's really important that we are moved, and it doesn't matter what we're doing. We could be doing, it doesn't matter. Like, as long as we are knowing ourselves and we're giving the best that we got, that's what changes the world. There's one last point I want to make. There's a lot of people that are rightfully angry with how things are going. And I'm not suggesting we shouldn't be angry. We can use that anger and channel it for various ways. What I'm trying to say is that connection of the self is what's most important. And it's not just the city-state that's taking that away from us, our connection, or the patriarchy. It's just life. Life has a lot of entropy. It's going to continue to throw shit at us. The whole idea is that, for instance, you know, in the Garden of Eden, not even God could keep the snakes away. So it's something that's a reoccurring pattern of life. Entropy will come at us. So the other side will not save us. We cannot promote matriarchy or communism, because all of those things, they're the same. Things will find entropy. We don't even need to be saved. We just need to become aware. So my message, again, is just empowerment of the self and empowerment of others to be able to become more aware and get a much better chance at life. Again, Luis Fernando Misses with you. Be well.
Nick Klein, episode 23.
Hello, boys and girls. Nick here with Hostile Hair. I am doing a quick follow-up video on what we talked about in the last podcast. A little bit of advice as we go into this somewhat scary election season. Figure out where your food comes from. Either get with local farmers or start growing food yourself. I don't want to be an alarmist. I'm not the tinfoil hat wearing type, but you won't be sorry for being able to make your own food. I'm not talking about going and buying things so you can make recipes from scratch. I'm talking about actually having a small farm, whether you've got a balcony off of your apartment or just a small plot of land in your backyard. When I got started, I lived on a postage stamp in the middle of an HOA that was controlled by the Third Reich. I was still able to raise a lot of rabbits, a lot of quail for eggs and meat, rabbits for meat. Even had an aquaponics set up in there. It is not easy to grow your own food, but I mean, it's not playing video games and sitting on the couch, but it is not super involved either. Like you can get a small setup going, fairly inexpensive, and you're going to be grateful that you did it. If you've got a basement that's not being used, anything like that, get you some rabbit cages, get you some rabbits and quail, and get after it. Our money situation right now, they keep printing more of it. So money that you are putting in the bank today won't be able to buy the same amount of stuff in a year from now, because the buying power of the dollar is decreasing as they print more of it. Now you can invest in gold if you've got enough money to make it worth your while that way, but gold doesn't change. Gold doesn't increase or decrease in value, just the buying power of the dollar decreases. You can get less gold per dollar as they print more dollars out, if that makes sense. It's better to invest in something that will give you barter power, such as a garden where you can grow fruits and vegetables, or a small livestock operation like quail and rabbits. Get yourself an incubator for some quail and get after it. You know, this is go time. It's time to actually make your property feed you. That's the whole point of this. Is you have to live somewhere. You might as well take the space that you're using and start up a hobby that you can eat. And that's where we start. You know, just start growing food, give you some barter power. I'm not a doom and gloom type of guy, but this election's got me scared. You know, people are very divided on both sides of politics right now. It's not a game I play with, but you know, that that steaming pile of poop could boil over and end up in your lap even if you don't participate. So you want to be prepared for the inevitable cluster that's going to come out of this. So anyway, sorry for the doom and gloom. I'm Nick, Hostile Hair. Look me up. I'm willing to help you get started. Let me know.
Rebecca Farnsworth, episode 32.
One of the most important things that you can do for yourself is to be yourself. When you are unapologetically you, you are going to be surrounding yourself with the proper people in your life. And you might be rejected by people that you care about or that you thought appreciated you for who you are, but you're making room for people who will truly accept you for you. And when you accept you for you and actually act on it, you are taking control over yourself and your life. Owning yourself and who you are is probably one of the most important things that you can do for you. So, yeah.
Jeremy Harding, multiple episodes.
I've been asked to give 5 minutes on what I would tell the world. No problem. Everything is related to a conspiracy. The biggest conspiracy of all is the state. International organizations of governments produce conflicts and crises for power and profit and force us all to participate. The left and right divide is a largely superficial one, whereby neoliberal moderates keep us in a predefined Overton window of acceptable opinions that don't alter the status quo. That status quo is a brutal and global system of hegemonies, stacking corpses in exchange for debt, resources, and favors. The elites want to curb the population and have enacted measures to do so. There is a ton of government-approved art foretelling mass death, rebirth, and peace following that. Ask yourself why. The Bilderberg Group decides all major events a year or more in advance. If you look at their members list, it shows that most competing global interests are actually on the same page. This is a great way to prove your identity is cultivated for their benefit. They've made you passive consumers of their products rather than active producers of what you consume. They did this so that you rely on them to make everything and cannot live without them. They keep you sedentary, binging their media on a couch and buying things you don't need easier than ever. This is if you're lucky enough to not be in a country they're destroying into poverty. Those people are fodder for their machine. They do this so you stay in a taxed hamster wheel job, and they hate the idea of you practicing agorism. They control the news to make it seem like there's no other way and keep you locked into their system. They inflate the price of everything from food to medicine and forced you onto their money. They controlled you from the moment you were born. Every second of your life has been partially influenced by propaganda and programming. They started with the indoctrination system they call education. It's a system of brainwashing imported from Prussia, used to train soldiers to not disobey. It's a Pavlovian system of bells, tones, and treats. It gets people used to a life of mindlessly following whatever signals are available. It trains them to constantly look up to authority figures and never solve things on their own. This is why there are so many Karens, and why a giant privacy-invasive security state is allowed to exist. They keep you passively sustained on subsidized carbs they taught you to take as rewards so you don't resist the amount of control that they have you in. This worsens your health and forces dependence on their medical system. The more of these things they control, the better they control you. Then, they gave you a cell phone, which may be their most insidious plan yet. This device tracks you wherever you go, monitors your vital signs, tracks your hobbies and interests, knows what bills you need to pay, and knows who all your contacts are. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. It also connects to the Internet of Things and helps everyone interface with you in your entirety. COVID has also been used as an excuse to strengthen this and make everything both privacy and contact-free. In World War I, the US loaded up the Lusitania and sent it into hostile waters on purpose to get into the war off a tragedy. In World War II, the US provoked Japan and stationed a bunch of ships in a harbor they knew would be attacked. In 9/11, well, just watch Corbett's vids on that and look into Operation Cyclone. They created crises to exploit and are actively turning you against your own interests for profit and power. They've used this to build a network of mass enslavement, stealing from you through tax, debt, and inflation to power their broke economy. This unsustainable system is doomed to fail. Anarchists are often asked, who will build the roads? A better question is, why were they built? The truth? So the state can control you with a massive net of control points at all angles. They say they're overpopulated. Watch True Stream Media's The Myth of Extinction Rebellion to know why they say that. They want to destroy you, and will take any opportunity they can to make that happen. You are an expendable and replaceable cog in the machine. At least that's what they want you to think. But you don't have to agree. The answer? Smash the state. Realize your strength and that there are many more of you than there are of them. Raise the next generation to solve their problems non-aggressively. Take back control of your life and what you've earned. Shake off the most dangerous superstition, statism. Realize you cannot get your freedom by begging the warden for the keys to your cell, and instead of asking for permission to be free in spite of their lack of permission. And if they seek to be your enemy, give them a reason to never cross free people again. I think that about covers it.
James V. Baker, episode 34.
Do not be tempted to judge individuals based on what their group identity allegedly is. Do not think in terms of identity politics. Just because someone is allegedly grouped in with Antifa does not mean that they are an evil person. You need to judge their actual sayings and actions alone. Same thing with Black Lives Matter. It's so easy to be intellectually lazy and group an entire group of individuals as being part of BLM, whatever that is, and that's somehow bad. No, judge what only the high-resolution person says and does. It is going to be so tempting throughout the coming wildness that is this decade to group people into lazy groups and just throw them into some kind of intellectual trash can. Be careful. Also, buy lots of gold and silver.
Jack V. Lloyd, episode 44. If you had the attention of the whole world for just a couple minutes, you know, somebody's hacked the mainframe, you just got the I'm in, and you can talk to everybody in the whole world, what would you tell them?
Well, I mean, I would try my best to tell them that taxation is theft, and that they should definitely take some time to consider what it is about themselves and what it is about their lives that they value, and what it is that they don't want hurt or destroyed. Because I think that when it comes to voluntarist ethics, that empathy is the first kind of layer there, is to think, how do you want to be treated? And if you're advocating for other people to have the power to just murder you, steal from you, dictate what you can or can't do with your body and your property and things like that, I don't think that anybody, if asked in earnest, is that ethical, like, to do that to you? If it wasn't the government, would say yes. Like, by and large, most people would say no. So I would encourage people to think about that and think about how they want to be treated in terms of their body and their property. I would definitely give them a bunch of things to potentially read, but it's like, it's very hard to break down the psychological barriers for a lot of people, depending on where they are in the world, because there's been so much government programming, to make people resist. But this is it. You know what I mean? I would say this is kind of the last stand, as I say in my comic. We are really in humanity's last stand against government for being totally enslaved, I think, forever, because of the technological apparatus that is available now to do that. So, just try to maximize consent, minimize initiation of violence, try to learn as much about yourself as possible with self-knowledge and healing. There's tons of books to read on that, from, nonviolent communication, healing the child within, the psychology of self-esteem, peaceful parenting, huge deal, for that. Definitely read about peaceful parenting. because those changes start at the individual level. You know what I mean? You can talk a lot about the government and violence and economics and stuff like that, but really someone who doesn't take the time to work on themselves first, and make healthy, good choices and treat others with respect and kindness, they're going to end up perpetuating that violence when they make exceptions or don't know how to handle their emotions. So, to me, that's the first key. Just got to think about yourself, heal yourself first, take care of those who you love, and you got to love yourself first too, and go from there. So,
Jeremy Hengeller, episode 45. If you had the entire attention of everybody in the whole world, and you had 5 minutes or less to tell them what you think that everyone in the world should hear, what would you say?
Oh man, there's so many things I could say, but it's funny. I kind of knew you were going to ask this because we talked about it earlier. But as soon as you started saying again, the first thought that popped into my mind was actually a Facebook post I made a couple of years ago that I recently came up in my memory, so I shared it. And I still believe this wholeheartedly, and it fits right in with my lifestyle and me talking about people wanting to live my possible lifestyle. Living out on the road and learning to be a minimalist to an extent, and still having fun with it. And still enjoying life is you are the biggest impediment to your own freedom. It's really that simple. If you believe in freedom on any level, and whether you believe it for other people or not, if you want to be free yourself, that's the one thing most people, especially in our circles who complain about the state and whatever and people in general, it's you stop yourself. So yeah, like I said, I've rambled on a little bit now, but I still, in less than 5 minutes, that's all you really need, man. You want to be free, go get it, man.
Hell yeah.
Get out of your own goddamn way.
Dan Hodor, episode 46. If you had the whole world's eyes and ears for like 5 minutes, and you're thinking, what do these people need to hear? What would you tell them?
Well, what I would say is that people need to, if you want to see the world kind of turn back around, because we're kind of witnessing a crumbling of society and, the Western civilization, essentially, because it's being engineered to collapse at the moment. But I would say that people need to start with themselves and, take personal responsibility for their actions, engage in introspection and self-mastery, get to know yourself, learn yourself, so you can become a strong-willed individual. You start from there, and then, if you want to have a family, make sure that, you have a solid family unit and raise your children right, and, teach them morals and, teach them the value of things. Don't give them, whatever they ask for, because then you're going to just raise another generation of, entitled, stunted individuals with no life skills, which is, kind of the reason why things are on a downward trend right now, because, people kind of lost those things. But it's kind of an ascending thing. It's like it starts with the individual, and then it goes up, through the family unit to the community to society as a whole. And, if you don't have that strong base foundation, you're not going to have a strong functioning free society, because that's essentially why we're slipping further and further into enslavement, because people have bought into the whole state indoctrination system through the schooling and not raising their kids right, and allowing the state to be the one that raises their children, because a lot of families are broken up and there is no solid family unit to serve as a safety net and backbone for things. So when that happens, it kind of instills a almost like a sense of arrested development, and that's what the state thrives on that. They need people in a state of arrested development, because if you're personally responsible and you have life skills and you can be self-sufficient, then you don't need the state. That's a threat to its existence. So I'd say if you want to end the state, start with yourself, start with your family, start with your kids, and then it'll all kind of just ripple out from there.
Nikki P. and Lizzie, episode 48.
You have a question for us, or
Yep. On this large global scale of things that we're talking about, say you had the whole world, and you can choose who goes first, who goes second. I'm going to shut the fuck up and use it as a clip later, so I'm just going to let you talk. If you had the whole world, eyes and ears at your attention, you hacked into the mainframe, what would you tell them?
Am I going first?
You're going first.
Okay. I would probably say that we need to concentrate on getting out there and talking to actual people. Like, stop just going on Facebook and looking at memes. Stop regurgitating stuff that you're hearing in the media and different places, and actually like make real physical connections with people. And as much as you possibly can, like, try and get out of your circle. Try and get out of just your immediate area, because all the negative stuff that you hear in the media, like everybody's against each other, and there is, I'm sure, some truth to that, but I hear a lot about like racist comments and Trump's America and blah blah blah, and I don't experience that in my everyday life. I don't meet people that are throwing milkshakes at people, or that are talking hatefully about someone because of their gender or their race or their sexual orientation. And I'm not saying that that's not a thing that happens, and it's not a thing we need to be aware of, but you're never going to solve that problem by posting on Facebook or by arguing with someone on Twitter. No one ever changed the way that they acted towards people in real life because of something that was dropped in their email box once.
All that after you just gave a giant speech about how it's good that we can all keep in touch on Facebook? And then you tell them to get the hell off Facebook and go and try and find people in the real world?
Well, I'm not saying...
Let's keep them... Like, can we do both? And, like, keep them, like, actually talking to people that believe this shit, and then making more people that believe this shit?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying get off of Facebook. Okay, I retract my get off of Facebook. I'm just saying don't only pay attention to that.
A much better decision.
Don't only make your focus that, because there are real relationships that you can build. And I guess what I'm saying is you should go and meet those people that you talk to on Facebook. Don't just, be a face in a box on a screen. Like, actually create those relationships as much as you can. And don't base your whole life on that argument that you're having with that other face in a box on a screen. I guess is my idea. But yes, thanks for pointing that out. I was being a little hypocritical there. I appreciate your...
It's okay. Your brains are fluid. I get it.
But it's a learning experience. That's why you have these conversations, so people can follow you on your bullshit. And guess where? I mean, it's harder to have those conversations when you're not in person.
I guess. I had someone talking about that the other day. That's like, oh, I want to meet more. Want to make more friends. I'm like, dude, 90% of the people I talk to are in fucking closed Facebook groups. I don't give a shit where the hell people are. I connect with the people I connect with. So, if I had the world,
go ahead.
What I would tell people: go talk to somebody who believes things that you don't believe. Find a piece of wood and take a walk in it. And pull your kids out of government indoctrination centers and do everything you can to end those.
There you go.
That's it.
It's
simple.
Nice. It's
I'm not going to belabor it. Those three things will make everyone's life better.
I like it.
Andrew Merrick, episode 49. I want to know, if you had the eyes and ears of the entire world population on you for 5 minutes, hacked into everything, you're there, what would you tell people?
Oh boy. What would I tell everyone? Wow, what would I tell everyone? Well, basically, don't take yourself too seriously. The biggest thing is to... Fuck. That's a tough one. What would I? Basically, that life is utterly meaningless. You are insignificant. What matters is what you make of it. If you care about something, do something about it. Other than that, there's really, I mean, shit. There's. I guess it would be my idea of not really nihilism, but absurdism, that there's no inherent meaning to anything, and that's not a bad thing. That's actually a very powerful thing. You have more control over your universe than you'll ever want to admit. And I think the more honest you are with yourself about that, the smoother your life and other lives are gonna go. That's probably what I would try to drive at anyway.
Hell yeah. I like that.
I don't really believe in meaning, in a sense that same thing with dictionaries and stuff. There's no inherent meaning. There's no inherent value. It's an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to create value.
Michael E. Smith, multiple episodes. If you had the whole world's attention on you for just a couple minutes, enough time to tell them one thing, most likely pertaining to anarchy, but whatever, it can be whatever you want it to be. What would you say?
Stop believing in authority and rule yourselves.
Short and sweet.
That's what I'd say.
Hell yeah. That's all it is. Stop believing in authority and rule yourselves. Well, authority's a fucking myth. Like you said, you just gotta stop believing it. It's a fucking fairy tale.
The illusion. It's the great illusion. Because if you think about it, without authority, religion, the state, we wouldn't have to worry about any of that shit. Like, there might still be religions, but you know what? They wouldn't be what they are now.
Shane Radliff, episode 51. If you had the attention of like every fucking person in the whole world, eyes and ears on you, whatever it might be, what would you tell them?
Oh gosh, that's a big question. What would I tell if I had everyone's attention? What would I tell them? I suppose I would point out a few blatant blatant tyrannies. God, that's a tough question. I don't know what I would. I don't know. I'd say something along the lines of, do you see this massive state that's stripping away all of your freedoms and liberties? Do you see that your families are in danger from being democided by the state when the economy collapses or whatever? Do you want these things to do you want these things to happen? And also just kind of emphasize, life's too short to be a slave. Life's too short to be a slave. Yeah. And why all this useless bloodshed and violence and destruction? Why? Is it really worth it?
Aaron Peterson, episode 52. What do you tell people who are watching you?
Probably just the same old saying, like, good ideas don't require force, guys. So you have this idea of how the world works, that's fine. If you have to force it on somebody, your idea is shit. That's pretty much it, man. Like, it's such an easy concept to understand, and I wish people would understand that more. Like, it's juvenile, like, if you have to force your opinion or idea on somebody, it's shit.
I agree.
That's it, dude.
Jason Booth, multiple episodes. Fucking A, after hours. So you can think about it. You got time if you want. If you want to just say whatever you think on the spot, go for it. Or if you think of something awesome later, just fucking record a video and send it to me, and I'll cut it in to the master compilation. Because that's a big question, man.
I'm thinking okay, so like I had an immediate thought, and it's gonna be it's I can't stand this guy because I know truths about him and I know who he is. But Adam Kokesh gave a speech a couple of years, I think it was like 2012 during the Ron Paul Revolution. called Humanity is on the Brink. All right. And it talks about, and he says that humanity is on the brink of a conscientious revolution, and humanity, the people are on the brink of breaking through, and people are on the brink of doing good things, and humanity is on the brink of evolving into the evolving. And it's just, I get goosebumps every time. I listen to it. Shows up in my Facebook memories, and I haven't shared it in a number of years because it's Kokesh. But the speech itself is absolutely amazing, and I get goosebumps listening to it. So I would tell people to listen to that. Listen, I wish it wasn't Kokesh. I really wish it wasn't Adam Kokesh, but the speech is just amazing.
Nice.
I don't know if it's written down anywhere, but the words, and then there's like some music to it, and there's some there's a video, and it's just
right.
It's fantastic. I would tell people to listen to that.
Well,
and then ignore the guy doing it.
Brett McQuigg, episode 54. What if you had the whole world listening and looking at you? You had, like hacked into the mainframe. You're on all the screens and everything. Everybody in the world can see and hear you. What would you tell them?
It's all bullshit. I don't know, man. On the spot, that's tough. What do you tell them? You own yourself. I mean, there's so many good little quips you can say, but I don't think anything is going to get through to just say one little phrase. Yeah.
For sure.
Like,
I got to stop putting people on the spot.
Go inside.
With that.
You got to give them a little bit of warning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have I've got like mantras like, don't stop playing pretend. That would be a good one. I'd say to stop, be yourself, stop playing pretend. Most people are walking through life living somebody else's freaking life. They're wearing a mask. Stop doing it.
Hell yeah.
You're never going to get what you want that way.
Spike Cohen, episode 56. If you hacked into the mainframe, you got the I'm in.
Sure.
And you told everybody, or you had the attention of everybody in the world, what would you tell them?
Oh man, probably something far less thoughtful than I'm about to say. Like if I really had that moment, I'd probably just like do something really trollish. Because you got all 7+ billion people, and you could I don't know, it's something not very thoughtful. But if I had the chance to say something that I thought would be helpful to every person on Earth, it would be a fairly simple multi-part message, which is that you own yourself isn't just an abstract thing. So we know we own our, assuming almost all, if not all of your followers are anarchists or, close to anarchy or at least familiar with it, the rundown. You own yourself, you own your labor, you own the product of your labor. Therefore, no one should be able to harm you or take your stuff. And then obviously it gets in all these debates into exactly what you should be able to own and what constitutes aggression and all of that. But we all agree on those basics. But because we live in a statist system, we're kind of divorced from the reality of what you own yourself means. When I was diagnosed with MS, they said that the goal of my treatment regimen was to slow down the progression of my MS to be similar to the natural aging process. That hit me like a brick, actually like a ton of bricks, because it made me realize something. I'm sitting there worried about MS. How much longer am I going to live? How much longer am I going to be able to walk? How much longer am I going to be able to see? That's all going to happen anyway. Even if there's nothing wrong with you, not only are you going to die probably somewhere in your 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe earlier, maybe later, but you're going to have less ability even before then. So you really have precious little time to do what it is you want with the only thing that you're ever going to manifestly own outright, with no one really disputing that you own it. And so, yes, that means that you want to convince others that they own themselves as well. Yes, you want to, if you're so driven to have a legacy of that you you created more people who believe the same way, so that we can possibly one day live in something resembling a free society. It also means that you're only going to, without trying to sound cliche and do the whole YOLO thing, you only have a fixed amount of time. And after a certain point, it's going to go downhill. And I'm not trying to make you have an existential crisis or become get depressed or anything, but what do you want to do with that time? Imagine that you're in your deathbed in a hospice. Do you want to say, man, I argued so much on the internet, I'm so happy about that? Or do you want to say, like, I met people, I had amazing interactions with people online and offline, but I had great interactions with people. I experienced what other people are feeling and showed them what I'm feeling. And we had great ideas and I had great experiences. I did things that I enjoyed, including, I guess black pilling people or yellow pilling people to anarchy and libertarianism. But it's not like, I spent a lot of time arguing with abstracts on the internet and who I didn't want to acknowledge were people. And when I was facing what in that brief bit of time felt like might be my final moments or my last bit of time that I'll ever be able to walk again or whatever, all of a sudden, none of that mattered. What mattered was like spending time with family and spending time with people that meant something to me. And so I just encourage you to don't live like you're going to die any moment or anything like that, but just appreciate the fact that whatever you're able to do right now is a precious thing that you don't know how much longer you have, but you do know it's not all that long. And just treat your self-ownership like it's something that matters to you. And I know that's like, if I heard someone say that, I'm like, that's the most cliche BS. So just hear what I say as something other than the cliche BS that it probably is. But hear it as like something really deep. I guess would be my takeaway.
No, man, that's
just pretend
inspiring.
what I just said is super deep.
Daniel Johnson, multiple episodes.
I think if I had their whole world's attention and I could say one thing, it would be that I would say true sovereignty lies with the individual and not any government or any country. And any movement for secession that doesn't ultimately end with the individual being able to secede is pointless.
Word up, man.
I think that's what I'd say, because I see too much of that. You hear about sovereign countries, and I was looking up that term sovereign, and I was like, wait, sovereignty is an individual thing. It's not a government thing. It's not a country thing. It's the person. It only goes with the person. And so when you say a sovereign country, that's just an oxymoron, because yeah. And so if people want to secede, if people want to break away, if they want to break away, but they're not willing to allow others to break away, like say California,
right.
California threatens all the time that they're going to secede under Trump. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's fine, but you're only seceding because you don't like Trump. You're not seceding so you can gain any measure of individual liberty or freedom.
Right.
You're only doing it so that you don't have to answer to him. And not that I like Trump or anything, but they're doing it so that they can impose more on the people living there. And so I think that those kinds of things will lead to slaughter and war.
Brett Adkins, episode 58. But if you had the whole world's attention for a few minutes, every eye and ear on you from every person in the world, what do you think you'd tell them?
Besides do DMT, probably, stop. Well, first of all, kind of put down the phone and
stop focusing on the negative. I know that's, and you say I'm speaking to the world, but that's hard for me to even conceptualize. So it's more of my people out here in Facebook world. It would be, I think, to focus on more of the positive shit. You know, we're bombarded with nothing but negative constantly, especially in our news feeds. If we're all anarchists, it's constantly cops shooting dogs and cops killing kids and fucking governments running amok and doing all this shit. And for me personally, that's had an effect on my mental health, where I've had to, separate myself from that. I would say start focusing on the positive, and live within yourself. Be true to yourself and live within your bubble and try to perpetuate this thing at a grassroots level, rather than trying to, become overwhelmed because it can feel so insurmountable. The type of shit that we're, as far as, if it was the world I'm talking to, I don't know, peace and love, man. I don't know what I would say. I don't know what the average guy in India is going through. I know that they're not doing too well usually. So, I would like to say to focus more on the positive and to sound like a hippie. Yeah, man, focus on the love and shit that's out in the world, because there's more of it than negative. But we all focus on all the negative. So that would be it, man.
Yeah, that's great. Joa Orga, episode 59. I was going to have you answer the question. If you had the whole world's eyes and ears, the attention on you, you had a couple minutes to talk to them, hacked into the mainframe, what would you tell people?
I like to explain that no one owns you. Only you own you. Only you decide what you do with your body and your mind. You can decide all these things, but at the same time, you're not allowed to do anything to anyone else unless they consent to it as well. So, be you, but make sure you understand who you are too, and what you're capable of. And we're capable of doing anything. So, if you want to make changes, there's ways to do it. You can just stick it out. It took me a while to get to where I am, and it just practice, fight everything. I mean, don't let it just be an internal battle like, oh, I got to deal with this again. No, actually do it, because we need more people standing up and fighting for it. We need you to be a human, which would be defending yourself. I think that's when the state comes in and says you can't do that, say, no, I can. And I'm not hurting anybody. Go ahead, take me all the way. We're going to go to court. I don't like courts, per se, but if you're agreeing to a system, be part of it, you're subject to it. So slowly break away from that system, and you won't be subjugated to it. Have control of your own life. That's really what you need to do.
James Dvorak Jr., episode 60. You had the whole world's attention on you. What you think you would tell people if you only had a couple minutes? I'm going to shut the fuck up and sit back and let you tell me.
It's going to be very short, but then I'll explain it after. Fathers matter. That's what I would say. Fathers matter. I didn't talk about it on the main podcast, but I was pretty, after I had my son, who's 10 years old now, I kind of had a battle with his mom, and I realized how unfair the court system is to fathers out there, the dads that are trying to be involved in their kids' lives. I have majority custody of him now, but it's been years of battle. I feel like and numbers show it's part of it too, that leads to higher suicide rates in men, homelessness, alcohol, drug addiction, all kinds of stuff. And I think right now we're seeing men and boys get shit on all over the place. And maybe I don't have the right words to make it happen, but I'd like to see people focusing more on raising up boys, uplifting the males of our society to make them stronger and not just shitting all over them. That's it. That's what I got.
Matthew Wotecki, episode 62. with your book out and everything, and the emphasis on the surveillance state, you can imagine if someone was able to hack into the mainframe, let's say, and get themselves projected to everybody in the whole world for just a couple minutes. I'm just curious if you were able to do that, what you would tell people.
For just a couple minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it's an interesting question. Like, I mean, I'd have to give it a lot of thought because but it would probably have to do a lot to do with like some of the things that we, talked about, basically, trying to just like get that message out to somebody within like a couple minutes without sounding like pushy or whatever, just like causing somebody or like being influential enough to like have them question something or even one little thing from just being on for a couple minutes. Like I think that would accomplish a lot. So
yeah,
maybe just like if you had the chance to publish certain information that you were in possession of, or like maybe like knowledge of like setting up a second realm or something, for example, just like in an easy couple minute or a few steps or whatever, that'd be cool. Might be something,
Hell yeah, that's actually a unique
but just
answer.
about like yeah. Well, I mean, like I was thinking like not to panic at everyone or whatever. Like it's like you all of a sudden you see like somebody come on for like a couple minutes and it's like, oh, the world is ending or whatever.
Some crazy anarchist has made their way into every news feed ever. Lily Forrester, multiple episodes.
My whole answer to that would basically just, don't be afraid to live, because before you know it, you'll be old and you'll have a whole bunch of regrets of all the things that you didn't do. I do have regrets of the things that I have done, but I also don't have very many what if regrets, like even the dreadlocks, like I'm not going to have the whole, man, I should have just did that. Like if there's something that, you're interested in that you want to do, just fucking go for it. And the other thing is something I've noticed, and it's something that I dealt with, is most people are too busy trying to focus on doing one thing with their life, whereas a lot of people I'm noticing are happier living a more diverse life, doing, many things. And if you find yourself with many interests and passions and skills and you don't want to focus on one of them, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that you're actually better suited and better suited to adapt to changes because you have more than one thing that you can do for a living. I gave myself years of anxiety trying to focus on one thing. That was my whole attempt in college, and leading up to college was trying to focus on one thing, and it just brought me nothing but anxiety. And I was too scared to try any of my many interests just because, well, I felt I had to pick only one of them. And I think I'd be a lot more developed in all of my interests had I just gone with the fact that I'm a person that's wired to do many things. I don't have to just do one thing to be happy or to survive. I do many things, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's too much of a focus on specialization and going with the grain and not taking risks in this world. Like, yes, bad things will happen, but bad things happen to good people that stay in line their whole lives too. It's just not worth it. Life's too short to ignore the things that make you happy and to try and squish personality traits of yours that don't fall in line with quite everybody else. Some people are meant to specialize. I am not convinced the majority are.
Mr. Anarchist, episode 65.
Don't trust me. Don't trust anyone. Think for yourself. I really believe that deep down inside, most people who aren't severely flawed in their mental thinking, which is such a small percentage that I really don't have to think about that. If you found your way to listening to this, you're already a thinking person. you have a conscience. Like it's there. It's part of our humanity, just the same as your rights are part of your humanity. And I believe in a lot of the truths that many people have said before, like seek and ye shall find. If you're seeking without hypocrisy, if you're honest with yourself, I really believe that you can find that truth. If you're yearning for it, I really believe you'll find it. And I think you'll be a much better person for it. Just be honest without hypocrisy, and, don't be afraid to go against all the conventions and all of the conformity of everything around you that would have you just follow the herd or just obey or just follow the law. Think you have that space, at least for now, until they can get inside your head, that you can start your own revolution within yourself, because there's nothing that's going to change outside until you change what's inside. At least be honest with yourself and believe that you are a good person and truth can be found.
Rachel Blackfire, multiple episodes.
Okay, so if I could tell the whole world anything, Google voluntarism, research peaceful parenting, research unschooling, and taxation is theft.
Simple and direct. I love it. And, leaving room for people to think for themselves once they get there.
Yeah, I mean, if I have the whole world's attention just for a minute, it's going to be hard to fit a lot into it. So just give them the key points and they go find them themselves.
Dennis Viscount, episode 67.
Okay. Some real quick things. When you try to fix behaviors you don't want, and it seems to be failing for you, I would probably say almost 98% of the time you're dealing to treat the consequences, not so much the antecedents which brought them about. Quick example, let's say you're a nail biter, you hate yourself for it, you want to change it. That's more of a cognitive behavior because maybe you're nervous, you have an exam, you have a date or something. It's nerves, you reinforce because you're like that. But you're always treating the fact that now your nails look like somebody, took a hole punch to the end of them. What you're not really dealing with is whatever the underlying antecedents are. Like, I get it, I get anxiety, I get worked up, and I cope with it by biting my nails. You want to get rid of the biting of your nails, you got to figure other ways to positively cope with your anxiety. That's a personal level. You can try it with child rearing, things like that. I think beyond that in psychology, I would say that's in terms of quick advice. In terms of people, I would probably say try to have, especially the anarchists that are trying to have the good fight, and certainly if they can and they want to, like, have as many kids as you can, because movements tend to be small blips in time if you're just sort of hanging out and spreading your memes instead of your genes as well. I would think that even like some of the most heinous governments of our time, like Pol Pot, different things like that, they get rid of all the people that will be useless to them, and certainly the people that might be, let's say, genetically not predisposed to survive without being well taken care of. They keep the people that will keep the movement going, but they tell them to breed a lot of kids. That's how it keeps going. You keep, supplying the chain. So in terms of anarchy, I could say spread your memes as much as you want, but maybe if you're feeling mentally and personally preferential to, try continuing it on to the next generation and do the best you can. I think that the generation and the generations we're currently seeing now that kind of just, they decided they're going to keep cats and stay in the city and not really do anything besides complain at Starbucks. That's going to be a blip that goes away if they don't do anything meaningful, like sharing, memes like genes, or they're not sharing their genes. Kind of like, is it really going to matter? I would also say your individualism is absolutely paramount to what shapes you and who you are. But should you get in tough times, and obviously I'm talking about, let's say, a civil war and a partial temporary societal collapse, you might find yourself being forced to maybe not work with, but do some things you might think are highly questionable. Like you may find that there was a dude who was a sheriff for like 15 years of his life. He's got a family. He realizes now, oh my God, what am I in? And maybe he's turning over to your side. I know this idea. I know this is like utopian here. Just bear with me. But you may find that you may have to work alongside them to stack bodies and get through. I'm thinking like the worst while ultimate the best outcome. That doesn't make you a shitty anarchist, in my opinion. And I think that you wanting to survive, or the people you love and care about to survive, is what's important to you. And as long as you're looking for, and that again would probably be doing what's hard rather than what's easy. But as long as you're kind of striving towards those things, you're educating yourself and you're trying to form your own hive or tribe, whatever you want to call it, to norm that together in at least 100 to 150 people and build your outer heaven and get your eye patch and be big boss. Do it. Absolutely do your best to try and do it, because if for whatever reason communication lines go down and the internet goes down, you're looking at a whole new situation that you've just been thrown in. And if you're not challenging yourself a little bit to maybe get out and get the lay of the land from where you're at right now, if you're not really pushing to relocate or get people to relocate to you, it's going to be a harder shock to you if something like that would happen. You don't have to be the best at everything, and never feel horrible when you start out something new and you screw up a couple times. Yeah, you keep screwing up, but you can make a go of it and do the best you can. Probably the last thing I want to say is people in liberty movements who take the higher road and look at stuff when they talk about people like Epstein and human traffickers, and they go, well, I'm a libertarian, I wouldn't kill them because then I become Judge Durgy, an executioner, and killing is wrong, and blah blah blah. You're just replacing evil with evil. I would amend the phrase of "don't keep your mind so often that your brains fall out." Sometimes I think people have their noses stuck too far up in the air that their brains fall out their nose. Because one of my, not many people put stock by it, but one of my favorite Bible passages from when I was a teenager was that the wicked flee when no man pursueth. And that, I think, tied up pretty much everything I've come here to say today in terms of voting and doing what's easy and cherishing those limited rewards and kind of being duped by them, or continuing to allow yourself to be duped by them, however you want to look at it. And yeah, that's probably what I would say to everybody as best I could.
That's awesome, man. Dharma Iyer, episode 68.
I would tell them to shut up. I'll explain. Stop talking about being an anarchist. Stop talking about change. Start fucking changing. Start doing something. Live the life. Walk the walk. Don't just lip service that shit, because all those kids in Virginia, they don't need more talkers. They need people that will back them up. They need people that will show up. They need people that will do. Change is doing. No one ever gets change done by talking about it. And I have personally met people that are anarchists. They are not anarchists. I'm sorry. They are just as much as an anarchist as Donald Trump. Stop talking, do it. And I get it, not everybody has 7 acres that they can be a homesteader. I fucking get it. Are you kidding? I totally get it. But there are things that one can do to bring anarchy home. I'm a tax evader. I have been for 11 years. But I'm also, I work in the community garden. I run it. I grow. I make sure that people eat. I'm learning how to forage. I'm learning how primitive survival skills. I'm teaching my kid how to make fire with a bow drill. You know, there are ways that you can bring anarchy home that are not just lip service posts on Facebook. And I think the one thing that I need people to hear me is we need doers. We've got enough talkers. We need people that are out there, boots on the ground, doing something about it.
Andrew Cosgrove, episode 69.
So what I wanted to kind of talk about is with statists, I want to encourage people to, I'm not saying don't meme them. I'm not trying to get you to sympathize with them or anything like that, but I want people to pay really close attention to what someone is saying and how they're saying it. And if they're showing even an inkling, I want people to plant seeds in them, freedom seeds in them. I know in the moment it might seem useless. I know they are or seem like an absolute moron, but this is how we get people to come over. And if we just, the common thing now is just to meme on them and to make fun of them because it's funny. But this is how we get people to come over. I literally just like a year ago, I was a statist. I mean, seriously, it happens fast. Doesn't take much, but in order for it to happen, we have to be willing to talk to people and we have to pay close attention to what they're saying. And if it's even relatively close to aligning with what we believe in.
John Locke, episode 70.
Well, let me frame it real quick before we get on that. Being a collapsitarian 1 minute and a libertarian the next, it's kind of hard to decide what I would necessarily say, I suppose. But let's take a collapsitarian point of view and let me set this frame of reference. All right. Those sirens that go off in emergency situations? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Everybody, all the technology and all the phones and everything goes off. Emergency sirens come on, right? I come on there and I say, this is the International Emergency Broadcast System. 3 months ago, the National Space Administration had detected an asteroid approximately 114 miles wide headed straight to Earth. Despite our best efforts and the best engineers and scientists, we have unsuccessfully altered its path and it is currently headed towards us. You have 24 hours before impact, and it is supposed to eradicate all life on Earth. Thank you, and God bless us all. End. When, or whatever. That's what I would say. And my point is that whether it happens or not, if somebody believes us or not, it would really get people to think for themselves. It would force them to think, oh my God, what have I actually done with my life this entire time? Have I really lived? What have I done with my life? What will I do with my life in the next 24 hours? When you live through a situation where you have to be faced with your own mortality, you really start trying to think down to, what is life about? Should I have experienced more? Should I have gone more places? Or should I have hoarded more stuff? What's really important in my life in the next 24 hours? Is it family? It might force a few phone calls, might get some people to, make that bad phone call we don't want to make, or that good one that we want to tell somebody. We love them, cherish them. It would force a conversation. It would force a train of thought that we don't like to think about. And that's, are we wasting our lives thinking about everything that's not in our control? Or are we simply just living our lives day to day on autopilot? Or are we really truly living our lives? That's kind of my thought process on the whole thing. Whether it happens or not, I could care less. If we fall into some kind of anarchy or whatever during that 24 hours, people do whatever they want or whatever, they'll still have to face some kind of consequence, I suppose. Sure. But it would really force people to live in the moment, and I think that's what a lot of people are lacking in life: living in the moment, the present, getting to know who you are as a person. I think that's really important in today's society, where we're so fast paced that we just don't stop to think for ourselves. We just do what everybody else tells us. I think it's important to kind of reflect on your own mortality and to fall back in love with life again.
Andrew Goff, episode 72.
Actually, I would probably repeat my opening statement from the last time I was on your show with the debate. The time to say enough is enough, the time to stand up and do something to change the world in an actual real way is now. It's not, that Thomas Paine, I believe, said, if trouble must come, I prefer peace, but if trouble must come, let it come in my time so that my child can live in peace. And I have 3 daughters, and all of them are under teenage years, thank God, so far. But I don't want to see them live in the same world that I've had to live in. I want it to change, and I want to change fast enough and dramatically enough that as they get to my age, they live in a world that is free. And I don't want to see us just continue to do the same things and keep saying the same things, because when you're an anarchist and you're a vocal anarchist, you find yourself saying the exact same things to people over and over and over again, and there's no improvement, there's no change, no one asks for any new ideas, you're just repeating yourself, which is what wears so many of us down, is saying the same thing over and over again. And I don't want to have to do that anymore. I want to just be able to wake up in the morning and know that I'm free, know that no one's going to rob me by, under the color of law, that no one's going to possibly threaten my life because I was going too fast down the road, or because I have a tail light out on my car, that no one's going to demand that I pay them blood money so that I can do whatever work I wanted to do. I want that now, not later, now. And it's time that we did that. We've put up with it way too long.
Derica Claus, multiple episodes.
I think I would tell people, there's that great quote, and I forget who said it, but between input and reaction, there's a space. And in that space, we can stop and we can take a breath and we can think about how we're reacting to this, what we're about to do. And in that space, you are allowed to just let things go. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to be whoever you want to be inside your head at that moment and be the best person that you want to be. And you don't have to worry about what anyone else thinks of you. In that space between stimulus and response, that's where you get to show who you really are. And that's what I want. That's what I would want everybody to hear and really think about.
Josh Porch, episode 74. We're in the after hours. Did you have a chance to think about the question that I was hoping you could answer?
I did, and we kind of touched on it a little bit. You said, what would I want to tell somebody if I had,
The whole
a few
world.
minutes of their time, or want to tell the world if I had a few minutes of their time? And it's going to come down to have each other's backs. Just like we were talking about earlier, you are more like the person you're arguing with than the person that, is wanting you to argue. They want us to fight. They want us to be at each other's throats. They want all this. They don't want anarchists to unify and to have that bottom unity. They want us arguing about economics in a system that may never even happen in the first place. They don't want us to unite and make that system happen. And we need to let go of that. We need to stop fighting. And as much as I like to debate and all that, as much as I obviously like to have 100, 200 long conversation threads, we need to be friendly. We need to come together and have real world action, make these communities, make these changes in the real world, and stop arguing semantics and economics like it's religion. This isn't really politics that we're arguing about. We're arguing about the way we want the world to be. So let's make it be instead of just talk about it. Let's do something. Let's get together and form communities and go out in the world and help people. Let's make anarchy real.
Spike Cohen, episode 75.
So last time I gave a very inspirational chicken soup for the soul thing about how you should be I don't know, how would I word it, that just do the things that you think are making a difference and that make you happy. And I talked about how with my MS diagnosis that it really, things that I thought were so important, I realized no, they're not important. They're not nearly as important. We're all going to be dead soon. Relatively soon. And, in the meantime, let's do what we enjoy. Let's help other people. Let's do the things that bring us value to our lives and bring value to the people we care about, as opposed to, chasing these things that we've been told since we were kids are important, but we deep down know that they aren't. So I've already covered that. The thing I want to say to you right now, vote for me. No, here's the thing I want to say. If you have any question as to whether or not there, so we briefly mentioned this earlier, that there may be times as an anarchist that, or even if you're a radical minarchist, as a radical libertarian, that you may sometimes step back. I know it's happened to me before in the past, where I'll step back and say, man, maybe we are wrong. Like, everyone seems to disagree with us. They're constantly, telling us, that, their way is better. And, I'm seeing especially if you spend a lot of time on social media, it can be brutal, because you've got people that are, constantly sharing all these graphs and data and people that have all these, degrees behind them. And maybe occasionally you have that moment of reflection where you're like, well, maybe I am wrong. Here's how I can answer that. Ever since I started this campaign, I haven't doubted myself once. And the reason is because I have primarily tried to market our message to people who are not libertarians. I have no need, and that may be counterintuitive because ultimately I'm running for the libertarian nomination. Maybe I should be doing more delegate service. At the end of the day, they're all sold on libertarianism. I don't seek power. I'm going to go find people that aren't sold on libertarianism and talk to them about it. That's my main goal. That's why tomorrow I'm going to be in UNC Greensboro talking to students there about anarchy and liberty, because that's the people I want to reach out to. All that to say, in doing this campaigning, I have more and more seen people who are Republicans, Democrats, Green Party, Bernie bros, people that you would never think agree with us on anything. And in a very brief conversation, whether I was talking with Bernie bros or people living in housing projects or Yang Gang people in person or on social media, when you present to them a nonpartisan, unvarnished message of self-ownership, non-aggression, voluntary societies, ending coercion, they don't really have an argument against it. Once you have presented yourself as someone that can have a nice conversation with, instead of, and I've done this before too, arguing with them and calling them bootlickers, once you actually meet them where they are, which is what this campaign's about, meet them where they are, which is statism. Meet them where they are and present to them an empathetic, funny, and unvarnished message of freedom.
you would be shocked at the number of people who instantly agree with it. Even if they don't immediately join up, or even if they don't immediately stop being a Bernie bro or whatever, they don't have any argument against it. And they'll say, I agree with you. One of the most powerful things that I've experienced in this campaign, again, was going to housing projects where a lot of libertarians go, you don't go there, they're living off the taxpayer. They're living off the taxpayer because everything has been stolen from them. It's all they have left. It would be like giving a prisoner a hard time for living off the taxpayer. They don't have a choice. Going there and realizing that they are living as libertarians, as anarchists, right on government property. It doesn't get more agorist or agorist. I always forget which one. It doesn't get more of that than living on government property and freaking subverting the system at every step, and making them pay for you to live where you are, and running your own business, and, you know, claiming other people as dependents multiple times in multiple households, and you know, selling all sorts of stuff that's, you know, both illicit, like, you know, weed and, you know, cocaine and whatever else, or just like doing handyman work but not paying taxes. Doing this campaign has showed me that we are right, and people live their lives as though we are right, even if they may not verbally say that we're right. We're all living our lives as though we are right. And so just be you know, even if you think I'm wasting my time, even if you think I'm a damn bootlicking status now, you know, I'm a terrible statist, whatever you want to think, that's fine. I accept all of that. That's great. But just be encouraged that the reality is people agree with us. Whether they'll say it or not, we are correct. They're living as though we are correct. We are all living our lives as though the state is a lie, and that it is really just an organization of common thieves, violent thieves who live who hang out in monolithic marble buildings and write things on sheets of paper and put you know, shiny pieces of metal on people, and you know, authorize them with authority they made up on the spot to do whatever they want to you. We're right about that's wrong, and that there's no need for that. If you want to, I neglected in the free part of the show to say it, but I guess it'll be in the show notes. But if you decide, I'm not trying to convert anyone. Not trying to convert anyone. All I'm saying is, if you want to see more, you can go to verminsupreme2020.com. Be sure to click on, in the menu, it says Spike, or you can go to spike2020.com, and that's my little one-page vice president website where I talk about the cheesy bread and the Badgers, and there's a waffle. There's actually a waffle floating on it. You should definitely go to that. Spike2020.com. Also you can check me out on Twitter at RealSpikeCohen, and you can check me out on Facebook, facebook.com/literally Spike Cohen. And that's all I have to say. Just be encouraged, guys. We're doing the right thing.
Isaac Lindenberger, episode 80.
Okay, so if the entire population was listening to me right now, I would emphasize two perspectives that I believe are important. And the first thing I would say is that this is a complicated concept, but there's a big problem when it comes to people believing that they don't have free will and that they don't have a self. Because if you don't have free will, how can you have freedom? And if you don't have a self, how can you have self-ownership? And so there's a common philosophical argument that states that you don't really have a self, you're just this capacity of consciousness, so there's no true self. You have no free will because the universe determines your actions. And your consciousness is not actually doing anything. It's just along for the ride, because when you go to move your hand, your brain is already aware that you're going to move your hand. It's already decided to do that before you're conscious of it. So how do you have any control over any of your actions? And the problem with this view is that it's disempowering. It makes you think that you're just a product of the universe. And you're more than that. The universe is moving through you. It's not just happening to you. Do you do it, or does it do you? Well, I would say you do it. And the reason why that's important to understand is because it's an empowering philosophy that allows you to own your existence instead of just believe that you're a passive part of it. You're really a lot bigger than just some small fleck on the entire scope of the universe. You actually are the entirety of all the forces that have led you to be. And it's a lot bigger of a thought form. So when it comes to free will, that's how free will exists, people are looking at it in the wrong place. Like people like Sam Harris, who wrote the book Free Will, it's about how free will doesn't exist. I think I could convince him free will exists if I get the chance to have a conversation with him, because he's looking for it in the wrong place. He's saying you don't have free will because your consciousness is just along for the ride, right? But what he's not realizing is that consciousness is a feedback mechanism that leads to you being able to control the universe. Consciousness itself becomes aware of experience, and that's how it transcends reality. So if the universe is pulling your strings, you can become aware of that, and you can pull yourself up by your own strings. And that's what yourself is. Yourself is the interpretive heuristic of conscious experience. And so that is the integration period where consciousness comes in and activates free will and allows you to be an empowered individual over the rest of your life. And when you realize this, you can have true self-ownership, and you can actually achieve true freedom, because you can't have it if you're held into the bounds of predeterminism and fate, and you don't think that you actually control anything. So I feel like psychedelics help with that. If you use psychedelics and you explore the inner landscape, they can assist in giving you knowledge that you hadn't had previously, even if they're entirely subjective. Although there could be some objectivity to the psychedelic dimension, I'm not sure. We're investigating whether or not psychedelics take you to a real realm when it comes to DMT research. So we'll see how that goes. It's definitely possible, but you can use those to assist in learning how to own your existence and appreciate it in that perspective, because existence really is amazing, and it's not nihilistically depressing. It's actually positively inspiring if you just view it in the right angle. So that's something that's important. So it doesn't really have much to do with vaccines, but I mean, vaccines are important because they help you to survive, to feel those things. So that's good as well. But when it comes to vaccines, what I'd like to say on vaccines, just real quick, is that there's a dichotomy with vaccines where there's an us versus them mentality when it comes to anti-vaxxers and pro-vaxxers. And these people really need to be working together, because anti-vaxxers aren't your enemy. Anti-vaxxers are parents who care about their children and love their kids, and they're actually pretty smart. They know a lot about their philosophy, and there's a whole structured argument for anti-vaxxers that is very comprehensive, and it seems like an accurate worldview when you're in it. So to be able, mushrooms grow in darkness. So for a mushroom or fungus to be able to be exposed to light might change how things happen. So you want to have a constructive dialogue with these people so that you can make them aware of the things that aren't illuminated in their perspective, and you can bring to consciousness, you can bring to light the things that they should know. And then you can have a constructive conversation. So I feel like the conversation with vaccines, it needs more respect, and it needs more enthusiasm from both parties when it comes to understanding that this person is just another human being, and they deserve your respect and they deserve your attention. And so that's pretty much all that I would say about vaccines. Although I also think it's important to say vaccines should be personal choice. If you force vaccines, even if you're pro-vax, forcing them makes it worse. It makes people afraid of vaccines. It makes them think that they would never need to force this if it was an effective product. You know, free market argument. You don't need to force a good product if it is actually a good product. So it must be a bad product. So you encourage that sentiment. So if you want people to take vaccines, you have to allow them to take it voluntarily and encourage them with good ideas. And that's how you're going to encourage effective trust when it comes to vaccine programs. And that's the only way you should do it, because vaccines do work and they are effective and they are mainly safe. I'm not saying adverse reactions don't happen. They do happen, but they're very rare, and vaccines are worth the risk when it comes to a risk-benefit assessment. Infectious diseases are more dangerous. They lead to more side effects, lead to more incidences of serious harm that can't be recovered from. So all of these need to be taken into consideration, but the most important part is it needs to be taken into the consideration of the respect for the other person and empowering their own free will, because their free will exists if you know where to look for it.
Trevor Murray, episode 81. If you had the attention, the eyes and the ears of the whole world, everybody in the world on you for, I don't know, a couple minutes, you've hacked into the mainframe, you're on every screen, every radio, what would you tell everybody?
again, don't panic. Don't believe what the government's telling you about social distancing and wearing a mask outside. Just please don't do it. I come with 20 years of hospital experience. I've worked in ORs, ERs, delivery rooms. I've worked in the morgue. I've worked in everywhere in the hospital. We didn't have any of this wearing a mask enclosures through all the years I worked in the hospital from 1996 to 2016. So please just try to be nice to everybody and don't buy into the social distancing and stay at home. Get out and live. Get out and live. That's what I would want to tell everyone. Get out and live. Wash your hands. I mean, everybody's got to be safe, but I mean, just not safe, more practical. Just be practical about what you're doing. Come home and wash your hands, but please I don't like any of the social distancing. Let's not do this, people. Let's not trust what the government's saying.
Yep.
That's what I would say.
Christopher Ledbetter, episode 83.
Basically, depending on how many minutes I'd have, I would say the same exact thing that I started out with what you did. You know, violence against peace is always wrong. And if you don't accept that, you'll never be anything more than just property of someone over you.
Fucking A, man. Rachel Nielsen, episode 84.
Oh man, I have so much. If I had the world's eyes and ears on me, I would say, it doesn't matter where we're going with this. You just start somewhere and get to where you're practicing something that you feel good about. Liberty, freedom's a big one. If we're all slaves, what can we do? Just start where you are and start doing something. Start learning. Start passing along information. Start asking questions. Just get involved in the project for human liberty, human freedom.
Phoenix Aurora, episode 86.
If I had the attention of everyone, undivided for a few minutes, what would I tell them? I would tell them that, there's no real difference between you or me. We all have, for the most part, the same motivations. That's to live free and to live peacefully. And that, this idea that we're all different and that we've grouped ourselves into different labels and boxes it's a false dichotomy. There's really no difference between anyone. We all want peace, security, and love. And the first steps toward doing that is to understand that every single person that you hate, that you disagree with, that's you. There really there's this idea of some separation between individuals it's false. We're all really one entity experiencing consciousness through different outlets. And if you ever want to have a peaceful, happy society, stop thinking of that person that thinks differently than you as someone other than you, and start loving them the way you would love yourself.
Chris Kofer, episode 88. If you had the attention of the whole world for just a couple of minutes, eyes and ears, every single person, and you could tell them one thing, what would you tell them?
Oh, wow. That's what I tell them. Oh, wow. No, I guess I'd tell them that you're allowed to be civil to each other without being told to.
Jimmy John, episode 89.
I'd say, fuck your boots. I'd play that video. That's what I would say. I would say, everybody go shoot a boot.
Why the boots?
Go out and just have fun. Why the boots? Well, it's better than licking them. What else was you going to do with it? There's a story behind them boots. They broke on my way out to the desert, so I was real mad at them. But when I went out there and decided to shoot them, I was like, you know what? there's a lot of bootlicking going on. There's not enough people shooting at them. Fuck, and it looked like a lot like a cop boot. So yeah, you guys want to burn your Nikes or whatever? I'd like to see more people run out and shoot a boot because I could see some lefties and some righties both coming together over that meme.
Branch Ellison, episode 90.
Yeah, the thing that's getting in my mind, like throughout my day and seems to be like the creation of a lot of arguments in my head with people that I know about different things, is that we really need to strive a lot harder for the truth. What I'm seeing is people arguing and bickering over things that aren't even true, and like one of the things that just is really ringing loud and clear for me right now is that the reason why we have this COVID-19 nonsense is because Building 7 did not wake up enough people. Straight up, man. I mean, you can't, like, everything needs to be taken in context, so, Building 7 showed us so much, we could do a whole show on what that was, but and if you don't know what Building 7 is, then how do you even expect to know what's going on now? Is that we're constantly being shown something, and it's for our benefit. Okay, it's for our benefit. This COVID-19, it's for our benefit. It's going to wake a lot of people up, just like 9/11 woke 9/11 woke me up. I mean, I was already woke to chemtrails and stuff like that, but after 9/11, like I got fully red pilled, and so I do not just believe liars, manipulators, and magicians just because they have a platform, and most people do. And so here's my analogy. It's like this, in my community right now, Northern California, everyone is arguing over if wearing a mask is safe or not for the oxygen. It's like we're back in kindergarten and we're playing the telephone game. You remember the telephone game where it's like one kid whispers into the other kid's ear and it's like, says something, and then it goes all the way around. And it's almost at the end now, right? But now an argument has broken out about what the last two kids were saying to each other, which is so far removed from the truth. It doesn't even matter. Like it's, and this is how we create diversion. This is how we create division. This is the Hegelian dialectic in real time. This is how we do the hook and the flail. These operators, these magicians, they have had countless generations to hone this craft, and they fucking play it like a harp, man. The hook and the flail. What does the hook do? Well, the hook brings you in nice and cuddly. It's the shepherd's way of like, easing the sheep into the slaughterhouse. And what does the flail do? The flail gets your ass moving. And so this has just been a wonderful example of that. And I think that COVID-19 is this generation's 9/11. It's 19 years later. It's exactly a metatonic eclipse cycle later. I mean, these things are not accidents. And so my hope is that this will wake a lot of people up to discovering what the truth is and what's really going on. And notice, I'm not going to tell you what the truth is. You have to figure that out on your own. But I can tell you who the liars are. And it should be very obvious, because they have a history of lying. Why would you ever believe a liar? It's unfortunate. We're caught in America is totally caught in this like very, very bad Stockholm syndrome, where I have like really nice, beautiful people in my community that are just straight up defending whatever CNN's narrative is. I'm shocked, just shocked, So let's all strive more for truth. Let's be willing to change our mind. Let's remember that the reptilian part of our brains only has two functions. Is this novel? Will this hurt me? And so it's like, we got to bypass that. Society, government, it moves slow so that it can get past your reptilian mind, For a lot of people, it's like putting on, wearing that mandatory mask right now, it makes perfect sense because all of the lies have been laid in place, It seems it's just like this logical conclusion. And so, yeah, we gotta wake up. So
sick, man.
Anyhow, I guess that's my impromptu
That's
message
great.
to the world.
Robert Landon, episode 92.
Oh, I'd tell them if you're a peaceful person, don't obey anyone who believes they have authority over you. Every time you obey, you're condoning their threats of violence against you, and you're encouraging them to violently victimize other peaceful people. All right. The only time I would obey is if there's a clear threat of violence. I want to hear it. Are you going to hurt me if I don't obey? Yes? Okay, then I'll obey. Now I have evidence against them that they threatened a peaceful person with violence. Challenge them to morally justify their threats of violence, right? You know, give them an option. Here, you going to take the peaceful option and leave a peaceful person alone, or are you going to choose the violent option and use politicians' dictates to excuse harming and robbing people? So that's what I would tell everybody. At least challenge them. Don't get hurt, but challenge them. And if you use that option clause and they choose violence, you can use it as evidence. But most of the time, they usually go for the peaceful. They really don't know what else to do when I do that to them. So that's all I got to say. Just, you know.
Peter R. Canones, episode 93.
The V for Vendetta speech.
Well, now you got to recite it.
It's all your fault. It's if you don't like what's going on, if you hate your government, if you feel oppressed, it's all your fault. You let it happen.
Maxwell Chi, episode 94.
I thought about this, and I still have to ad-lib this. So what I would like to say is own yourself, protect yourself. Everything they've told you that you've learning about the state is there to protect you, to provide this, to provide that, services, police, ambulance, fire, or even if you get somebody hit and runs your vehicle, you know, it's always our first instinct to call the police. And all I'm asking everybody here is, before you resort to that instinct, hopefully it's weeded out of a lot of people, think of other solutions. Think of non-state solutions. And that goes with everything. For example, immigration. Why does everyone think we have to build a wall or increase the state size by adding more Border Patrol people or adding more Department of Homeland Security? Those are all statist solutions. Those are all horrible solutions. It does nothing but grow government. It's an antithesis of what we would like to see as anarchists. It's like, what are some freedom-based solutions for immigration? What are some free market-based solutions? Black market solutions, you know, what just, I'm generalizing here, but all I'm asking everyone, the entire world here is, what, before we knee-jerk into any type of decision or conclusion that supports state violence or state control, what are some different solutions? That's it. That's all I'm asking.
That's perfect, man.
And I'm asking people to apply that to anything they do, and especially when it comes to raising your children.
Jason Booth, multiple episodes.
What would I tell the whole world if I had their at this point in time, with everything going on, I would tell the whole world just to take a deep breath and take a step back from what you're doing and chill for a second, right? Calm down. You're not always right. Everyone else is not always wrong. And the moment you start to realize that is the moment that you start to learn. Too many people are obsessed with being right or wrong and not concerned with being educated.
William Gadsden, episode 97.
Oh my gosh, that's fucking terrifying. Shit, man. The entire world. I guess my main message would be to think about, this is tough. So I would encourage people to think about the individual and the power that the individual has, not only over their own lives, but in society as a whole. And a couple minutes isn't long enough to talk about spontaneous order and all of these other different things, but especially the world is on fire right now, man. You've got Turkey. Turkey is pushing this sort of neo-Ottoman sphere of influence. They're directly involved militarily in Libya, for example, pushing into Lebanon. You've got China just swallowed up Hong Kong. You've got the U.S. as we talked about, we're close to something really big and really deadly. I would just want to impress upon people that it's not hard to just leave everyone else alone. That's it. It's not a difficult concept. You as an individual can make all of the difference, especially if you're in a democracy, if you're in a position of power or authority of any variety. It's not hard to just leave people alone. So in the case of, your audience is probably primarily Western, Europe, America, etc., especially to them that are living in primarily democratic countries. All you have to do is not support the state's growth. That's it. So if you believe something, if you believe that everyone should have universal health care, you need to take a hard look at the cost of that, not only for you, but for all of your neighbors. So you might want universal health care, but you do not have the right to tell other people that that is what's best for them. They're the only people that have the right to say that. And it's not a difficult concept. Just leave everyone alone. If you want a semblance of universal this or that, find a lot of other people that are like-minded, and y'all figure it out together. Everybody chip in, you cover each other, you're forming a community. I'm all about that. You're helping one another out. I'm all about that. But don't use the force of the state to do it. Just empower the individual, man. That's what it comes down to.
Brittany Gold, episode 98.
Okay, so I was thinking about this yesterday, and I think I would tell everyone that whatever you've been through, wherever you come from, whoever you are listening to this right now, I want you to know that regardless of your background, regardless of who your parents are, what state you live in, what city you live in, what country you live in, what your class is, how much money you have, I want you to know that you are a beloved creation, and that your life matters, you're important, and the only way the world is going to get better is if you believe that about yourself, and you believe that you are loved and you are wanted, and the world needs whatever special things that you have to bring to the world, because each person is made an individual and has their own individual gifts that no one else in the world has and that no one can recreate. And if you're not giving those gifts to the world, then the world is losing something. And I think there's a lot of people that need to hear that and need to know that if they are, they feel like they're not worthwhile, or no one loves them, or they don't belong, then they're going to go out with that cup of suffering, and they're going to let it spill onto everyone and onto everything, and it's going to negatively affect everyone. Like, when you put that out there, it has a grand ripple effect. And just in the same way, knowing that you're loved, knowing that you're worthy, knowing that your human life is important, regardless of what your skin looks like, what your abilities are, what you think you are, who you believe you are, regardless of all those things, you were meant to be here, and you were meant to help co-create a world that is beautiful, in a world that you belong in a world in a picture that's big enough to fit you, and you're a perfect puzzle piece for the puzzle that is the world. And that without you being here and living your life and using your gifts and using exactly who it is that you are to fill that puzzle piece, we're going to have a hole, and we will continue to have a hole, and humanity will continue to suffer. So I would want everyone to know that and to live as if that they matter and that they were known and loved and were worthy of consideration and food and life and liberty.
That's beautiful. Enemy of the State's Dank Podstash is sponsored by Project Sparta. Go to projectspartacoaching.com to learn more.